Hello guys, welcome to the next episode of Late Friday Night's Banter Blitz. Today my intention is to play some decent positional chess, but everything depends on you, so maybe you will force me to do something extraordinary, I don't know. For this reason I am just wearing this t-shirt, which is actually the favorite t-shirt of Kramnik student. That's for you. First and foremost, but definitely I can remember that one of my best shows I actually did exactly wearing this t-shirt, so maybe it will help me today, maybe not, who knows, let's see. Okay, so as usual I will start with several games against that guys I have never played before. Let's see if we have those among challengers. There are a lot of already, so let's see the commutator already played, sorry. So already played. Klosterfrau, yeah, we played a lot. Magic Benny from Germany. Oh my goodness, who is that? Could it be Benedict Krause, my teammate? Have no idea, but actually we have never played, so I will accept the challenge. All right, here we go. And the first game I'm with black pieces. Let's see. Magic Benny, come on. You're welcome to make your first move. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to wait for it, because there are a lot of other challengers. So let's say it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry. All right, maybe next time. So let's go further. Yeah, those guys. Lawrence Trend. that's funny, but we have never played, so I will accept the challenge. Still with black, and immediately e4. Okay, let's see. Knight of 3, knight c6. And Rui Lopez. Not the exchanged variation. So some classics. Now e4 is protected, so there is this threat of taking on c6 and taking on e5. A good moment to play b5. Now d6. Overprotecting e5 square, e5 point. And here I usually play h6. Smyslov variation. So those guys who attend my shows frequently actually know that I usually play exactly this. So the point is to protect g5 squared, to prevent bishop g5, and what is more important, knight g5 attacking f7, so that rook goes easily to e8 after that. Then bishop goes to f8, and I exert some pressure on e4. Bishop e3 now. All right. It is a playable move, of course, because I can't take on e4 in view of bishop d5. But I'm not sure that bishop e3 is very good, in fact, in this concrete position. So let's continue with the normal development. Now I guess it makes sense for me to play, say, bishop d7. But maybe there is also a possibility to play something like d5 in this position. Maybe, but let's just see what is going on here. After bishop d7, so the knight is already protected. Bishop c2. So, what to do now? So white is going to do what? To play knight f1, then knight g3, but maybe it is not that simple, because now if knight goes to f1, I just take on d4. And e4 will be hanging. So let's try to play g6. Just to put the bishop on g7. Typical maneuver. Another idea that after g6, h5 is also protected, so I can play knight h5 if I want at some point. Okay, d5 looks logical. So let's put the knight here. And the next will be something like c6 maybe, just to undermine d5. Okay, white wants to play knight g3, right? So maybe it makes sense just to prevent it with the help of knight h5. As I said, after g6, h5 is protected, so... yeah, I guess this is also quite a logical reaction. Quite typical one. h6 is hanging, so I have to protect it. This is more or less forced. King to h7. g4, okay. Right, I have to do this, right? Knight f6. Well, not very pleasant position, to be honest. So white managed to grab the space. But maybe it is not that dangerous, in fact. So what to do next? Let us try something here in the center. Because white, as we can see, expands on the king side. It is usually a good idea to react with the counterattack in the center against flank activity, so why not to play c6? And now there is a question. To take with the bishop or to take with the knight? I think to take with the knight looks a bit more natural. So let's do it with the knight. And now another natural move, bishop e6, just improving position of the bishop. And attacking a2, of course, I don't think that a2 is hanging right away. But at least it wins me some time. Now what? b4? Takes b4, not clear. So maybe queen to c8. Exerting some pressure on g4. Who knows, maybe I want to sacrifice a piece there. Also, queen occupies the c file, so maybe at some point I can play b4. Yeah, not sure, but queen b7 looks good. Just preparing b4. And also controlling long diagonal, so if I play d5 at some point, it might be good. Just to have the queen already here. Yeah, maybe I should just forget about this queen side and to try something like rook 8 to d8 and then d5, but why the hell I played before then? Because after that c4 is possible, so that I can forget about d5, in fact. Alright. Alright. So, bishop c4. I guess I can take on c3. Just creating sort of weakness there on c3. Now what about just simplifying position a bit? Rook c8. Creating a sort of knight e4, by the way. Maybe forcing the queen somewhere. Away from this square. Yeah, to d3. Now I want to play d5 at some point. So maybe just like this. Rook to d8, preparing d5. Looks very natural. But c4, okay. So now I definitely have to attack c4 pawn somehow. How to do this? the best way? Not clear. Not clear at all. And I have no time. That's bad. Okay. This gives me the pawn, which is very important. And now e4, he's hitting. I actually attack e4 3 times. So maybe I can grab it next move. I guess on the knight b4, something like, I know, queen b3 should have been played. Now to take with the queen or with the rook, I have no idea. Let's try it. Let's try this move. Attacking the knight on f3. Yeah, it looks very good, but I have only 30 seconds. That's bad. I'm very slow. Very slow. It's really annoying. I definitely missed something. Will I manage this or not? Yeah, I managed. I managed. Did you see that? Did you see this speed? Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Very, very cool game. Just right from the start of the show. Very nice. Okay. So, well, during the previous episode, I would definitely take the draw. Of course, at the moment when my opponent offered it, I don't remember. What was that? Somewhere here when I played knight g5. Of course, it was necessary to, yeah, somewhere here, right? Played knight g5. It was possible to protect g4 pawn, and white has extra exchange. I don't really think white has a real chance to win this, because not so many pieces are on the board, and they have a counterplay. If bishop takes g5, for example, I just take on g4 instead of taking on g5 with the pawn, then I take with the rook, and so on. 100% white could have played better, and I could have captured on e4 with the rook, not with the queen, so it was much better, much safer continuation. I control everything on the board. Probably white can try this knight takes e5, but I just take with the rook. Okay, white regains the minor piece, but I still have extra pawn, and I have better position because of this numerous weaknesses on the king side. So, I do believe that bishop e3 could be played here, of course, so it's not a wrong move, but I also think that I can react better. So I can probably, instead of playing bishop d7, try bishop to b7. So the point is that now, if white plays bishop c2, I have a very pleasant capture, and then knight b4, attacking the bishop and pawn on e4, which means that if white wants to save the pawn, white has to give up a light squared bishop, which is already an achievement for black. All right. Yeah, so instead of bishop e3, I guess knight e2 immediately. The main line should be recommended. Okay. Let's continue. So who's next? Who is next? Magic Benny is still here, by the way. So let's see. Buck. Have already played. Son of Soros. 82. We have never played, so I accept the challenge. And white pieces. Let's play the game, Heiko. So e4, c5, knight f3, Sicilian. Yeah, now I have a good mood after such an exciting game. Whew, that was fast in the end. Bishop e2. So since we play decent positional chess, I just played this modest bishop e2. There was an interesting article in the last issue of New in Chess about h4 on the sixth move, and yeah, there's a very interesting overview that almost everything on the move number 6 works against knight f. So it's really amazing. And almost nothing gives white anything tangible. So bishop e6. What is going on here? f4 deserves attention. Queen to d3. Let's try this line. I mean, it's definitely playable. So I protect e4 pawn, and I want to play knight e5, but there is not the only idea behind queen d3. There is also a possibility to put this queen on g3 at some point. So black has to be careful about it. Azurmis says bishop g5 is dangerous, though yeah, bishop g5 is dangerous, but if black knows what to do, I mean knows all this theory, there is a lot, to be honest, then probably white has nothing serious. But bishop g5 is definitely, you're right, it is definitely the most dangerous continuation nowadays against knight f. Setup. So, knight c6. Okay, if I play knight to d5, then after bishop d5, e d5, and knight b4, attacking my queen. The knight also attacks d5 and c2. Well, we can go crazy a bit and try this line. So knight e5, bishop d5, e d5, knight b4, queen g3, with the counter attack against g7. And this gives me actually a pair of bishops. But there is also a possibility for black after knight e5 to capture with the knight, and after e d5, knight b4, saving the bishop on the board. So this might be not very good for me. So for example, knight e5, knight e5, e d5, knight b4. I play queen to g3, and black can simply take on d5 with the knight. If I take on g7, there is bishop f6. So this doesn't look very promising. So what to do instead? I can play queen g3 immediately here. That's for sure. So let's try it. Just attacking g7. Let's see what black will do. And then I will probably try something like f4 at some point. We'll see. I shouldn't forget about knight b4 possibilities, simply attacking c2, because since my queen is no longer in d1 or somewhere around pawn c2, this might be a vulnerable pawn, but I think at the moment black has to solve a bit more serious problems than just going for my pawn c2. After all, I can just give it up. Why not? So g7 is hitting. Probably black is thinking of sacrificing this pawn to try to exploit the g file. But I don't think that there is enough compensation if black gives up the g7. If black plays something like g6, I can try bishop to h6. preventing castling, which is also not bad for me. If castles right away, then something like bishop h6 should be promising, simply attacking g7. And if knight goes to e8, I can think of knight e5, something like this. Oh, bishop f8. There is such a move, of course, but I don't think it is very good decision. So bishop just goes back. So black is definitely a bit stuck with the development. The king is in the center, and from this point of view, I think f4 is the most natural continuation. So I'm trying to open up a position. Greg asks, can you play b3 or b6 on the first move? I can, of course, but I won't do this. So, as I said at the very beginning, I'm trying to play some decent chess today, so b3 and b6 doesn't look like a good idea. Oh, what is that? That's an interesting maneuver, of course. Now it goes to g6, but this leaves pawn d6 hanging. Isn't it a gift? I know bishop d6, queen b6 check, okay, king h1, there is nothing. Bishop d6, knight f5 might be the idea. E takes f5, bishop takes d6, but I have an extra pawn. Well, I can just ensure that everything goes smooth with the help of rook a to d1, I think, just attacking d6. And then after knight g6, I will just simply capture on d6. Yeah, I'll do exactly this. Why should I give my opponent a possibility of playing knight f5? Come on. Grabbing my dark squared bishop. I love bishops. So that I will just save it on the board. Moreover, after this rook a to d1, there is also a threat of e5 at some point. So for example, if knight g6, I can also consider e5. If queen b6 check, then bishop e3. Oh, my son is crying, but okay. And then d6 also drops. Or maybe even knight f6 drops. It's also an interesting thing. So yeah, maybe after knight g6, I'll just play e5. I don't know. Why not? Alright, I can just play king h1, I think. But there is also an interesting maneuver like bishop e3 followed by bishop d4. Exerting extremely annoying pressure on knight f6, so I will do this. I don't mind that I don't take d6 pawn, okay. This game is not about pawns, I think. It's about something more. Yeah, position looks very promising. There is also a chance that I just overestimate my position. But it can't be bad for sure. Alright. So now what? Just to grab that knight on f6 and then to take it with the rook. Too simple for black, I think. Too simple. It looks just normal. e5 is also an interesting try. So e5, d5, bishop e5, this opens up a position completely. Could it be something? Let's try it. At very least, I just get rid of my potentially weakened pawn. But maybe it was not the best decision, of course. Yeah. Probably something like queen e3 was the best, creating the threat of bishop b6, forcing the knight somewhere to d7, and then just enjoying the position with enormous advantage in development. Yeah. Alright. This is not very dangerous. Just take it with the rook, then I take on f6. With at least two minor pieces against the rook, but black's problem is that there is no even something like g takes f6. Yeah, this position should be absolutely lost. For black. Yeah, just take here. By the way, knight e5 was also winning. Yeah, I just forgot that my rook on c1 is protected because I expected bishop takes b3, in fact. Okay, so in my opinion, the best order of moves for black is just to make quick castling here. So after castling, just castling. And, well, at least after bishop e6 and queen d3, again, castling is the best option. Because after knight c6, as we can see, there are some problems with the g7. So as I said during the game, if castles, then bishop h6 is annoying, attacking g7, and if knight goes to e8, okay, I can occupy d5, I think. With quite pleasant position, so bishop takes, pawn takes, let's say knight b4, I can just play c4, I think. Well, typical position after king h8, of course, my bishop will go back somewhere to e3, maybe to d2 even. d2 is a typical square here in this line. I have to be careful, by the way, about bishop h4 here. So, it's not that clear. Maybe, well, maybe I can't do this. I don't know, black can improve this line by playing knight b4 first, attacking d5, and after c4, let's say bishop h4. But there is something like queen c3, I think. The position remains unclear. I mean, if I play queen c3, there is knight d5, cd5, g takes h6. This might be very dangerous for black because we have opposite colored bishops, right? So to avoid all these complications, black can simply start with castling quickly, so that after queen g3 there is always king h8 or something. Yeah, that is my recommendation. Okay, okay. Let's go further. Let's go further. One more game with the newcomer. One more try maybe against Magic Benny. I don't know. I'll accept it. Let's see. Yeah. I'm still curious if it is a Benedict Krause. I don't know. If yes, that would be just amazing, because it is my teammate. But I have never seen that actually. Benny plays this look in defense. I have no idea, but we'll see. All right. G6. I'm just developing the pieces, controlling most important squares. I don't know if it is a good strategy. What about just d5 here? Is it good or not? Have no idea. Let's check it. Just grab some space, right? Okay, so now I have a bit more space, but black is ready to undermine my d5 pawn with the e6. c4 is not hitting because my bishop f1 protects it. Can I play h4 here? Well, probably black will just play h5 and it will be just a potential weakness. So maybe it's time to come back to normal development. Let's put the bishop on e2 and then make castling. Bishop g7. All right, time to castle. Bishop f5. All right. So black also finished the development, but I'm not sure that bishop f5 makes a lot here. in this square. What about the future plan? To play b4, c5 or something like this, but b4 leads to a5 might be not very pleasant for white. There is also a possibility just to play bishop d4, in fact, to exchange that bishop, so white will benefit from a bit more space long term. So let's try. I think it can't be bad. It is very solid. And yes, I know that maybe exchange of dark squared bishops here is double-edged, because it weakens a bit black's king position, but at the same time, so we can see white has a majority of pawns placed in light squares, so dark squares become an easy target for black. Well, we will see what is better and for which side. Okay. White is opening with white, seriously, not so dangerous. Who said it should be dangerous? Well, who said it should be dangerously looking? Just a normal opening, why not? I'm not here to decide the things in the opening stage. I'm just here to play chess. Okay, so I forced my opponent to spend some time. In fact, it is not that easy to find the active counterplay. So I just protect this c4, which was hanging. And if black tries something like e7, e6, or e7, e5, it leads to a weakening of the position. I'll just take this pawn. Either it goes to e5 or e6, doesn't really matter. Okay, so knight e7 gives me a chance to grab the pawn. Is it a good idea or not? Bishop g7, king g7, queen d4, queen a7. What is that? I'm not quite sure, but it feels like an extra pawn. Let's try it. Anyways, I wanted to put my queen on d4. So now we will see if I can really take that pawn on a7. Might be very dangerous for me, but right now it looks like just an extra pawn. So king goes away, I just take on a7. If rook a8, I just go away with the queen. My a2 is still protected. If he tries to trap me somehow, I just go to a3 or something. Yeah, let's just grab the pawn. Extra pawn. That is how it works. It's not dangerous, right? But, well, efficient. Efficient way of playing chess. Your opponent also thinks that it's not dangerous, come on. Why he plays that? There is nothing dangerous in the position. And he loses focus and loses the material. Alright, so let's take it. It's a new weakness on d6, right? Or I can just play knight b5 here. It's also a good idea. But I prefer to take, to open up the d file. And to get rid of the pawn on diagonal h8, a1. Which is also quite cool. Alright, why not? Why not rook d1, attacking d6? Queen c7, okay, queen takes d6, or what is that? It's just another pawn. 2 pawns up. 2 pawns up. Nice. Queen on a7 looks good. Looks good to me. So let's put our queen on active position on e5. Oh, it is kicked already. Alright, there is then safe position on e3. Not that active, but I'm not against. Okay, queen d4 picks up the bishop, right? Yeah. One more material unit already in my pocket. Time to resign. I have enormous material advantage here. And also I have more time, so I think I will manage to do this. One more. No, it was probably not Krause. I have a feeling that it is just not his style of playing this game. Or maybe he had a bad day, I don't know. I will ask him a bit later if it was him. That's really interesting. Well, this was unnecessary, of course, but I think it leads to a win anyway. Okay, what about just taking on f3? Why not? All right, where is the checkmate? Where is my checkmate? There is a threat of queen g4. Have to be careful. Have to be careful about the perpetual, maybe. Okay, let's go back. Simply. Oh, I missed the perpetual. What the fuck am I doing, huh? I thought only about queen g4. Can you imagine? Yeah, that was a pity. That was just a something. Okay, so my goodness, I just lost the concentration. Yeah, of course it is absolutely winning. There is nothing to discuss. So black's mistake was, yeah, here I think 97 was not correct. True that it is not simple for black to find an active play here, but yeah, 97 was just losing the pawn for nothing. And what a patzer am I not to win this game with so many extra pieces. What the hell? Huh? All right. Yeah. I do believe it wasn't my teammate. Because just a pity, right? All right. Now let's get back to just normal order of challenges. Phenomenon was the first today. Yeah. Very bad. Very bad, Andrey. At least I didn't lose, right? I was so relaxed that I could have even lost this game. All right. My God. Let's come back. So we have exchanged variation of the Ruy Lopez. Also not dangerous. Also not dangerous for black. If he knows what to do here. Bishop g4 is completely playable line. And h5, the main line here. Goblin says never give up. True. Especially when you play blitz. Easy Rider asks, hi Andrey, how did the tournament go for you? I think you mean the one in Lingen. So actually I scored 4 out of 5. There was a 5-round tournament. And in addition to me, 6 more players also scored 4 out of 5. So there was a tie of the first place, and additional ratios gave me the third only. So the first was Gutmann this year, the second was Ipishin, and the third was me, and so on. Last year was the first, the second was Ipishin, and Gutmann was third. So actually we exchanged places with Gutmann if compared to the previous tournament in Lingen. Okay, not that bad. So bishop d6, not queen f6, right? So this gives me a chance to play bishop e3 and then to play knight e2. One of possible ways of playing it. So let's do it. Well, now I don't think I want to exchange queens. That is also a possible way of playing it. 100%. Well, I will give my opponent a chance to take my queen, but this way, so I don't want to help him developing his pieces. So instead, I just develop my pieces. And now there is an interesting option just to play queen g3, right? Creating a sort of bishop g5. Because g5 is weakened by black's h5 move. I'm not afraid of h4. Oh, g6, what is that? Just giving me the exchange? Okay. I'll take it with pleasure. Why not? Let's simplify position now. So I can grab the bishop and then play f4. That's the plan. f5. Isn't it too much for not developed pieces at all? Okay, let us support this idea of opening up a position, because it looks extremely good for white. In general, when you have the extra exchange, you have to try to open up a position. It gives your rooks perspectives. Okay, this square looks very good looking, at very least. Now another rook goes to the open file. So now both rooks occupy open files. And I just exert pressure on black's position. Very good. So I have in mind something like c3, d4. Maybe just something slow, I don't know, b3, rook e4. Then another rook to e1, just attacking e5 and so on. Alright, queen a2, I think I can now capture this pawn. g6, attacking the knight. And if the knight goes away, then queen g7 wins the game. Because the rook on h8 is also hanging. And I won't be that relaxed like in the previous game, so I will try to convert this enormous material advantage. Oh man. That was just amazing. I had extra rook and extra minor piece and several pawns in the previous game. Yeah, and found the only way to make a draw. I just did like a study composer, right? Yeah. That is what happens when you solve a lot of studies. You start searching for only moves. Sometimes it's just not very good, right? When in an absolutely winning position you start searching for the only way to make a draw. That's stupid. Okay. So queen g7, rook e8, queen takes e5, or rook f7. Rook f7 also looks great, so let's do it. No, rook takes e5 first. Yeah, rook takes e5 to prevent queen e6. That is a better idea. And the next will be another rook to e1, for instance. Yeah, it should be working fine. Absolute domination. Whew. All right, good. So, first of all, I'm not sure that bishop d6 is a good idea. So the main line here is queen to f6. So the point is that if white plays knight to d2, there is a problem with developing the bishop c1. If white plays bishop e3, then black has a chance to damage the pawn structure. I usually play bishop e3, just going for this endgame, which is nothing, of course, for white, but quite interesting playable position. And in Blitz, well, it is not really important what you play, actually. It should be something decent, leading to at least a normal position that you know, right? That is an interesting tip for you, by the way. Don't try to play for the opening advantage in Blitz. Just try to achieve a normal position that you simply know. That is important. So bishop d6 gives me a chance to avoid both actually damaging the pawn structure and problems with the development, because if black plays queen f6 now, I just play knight e2. So the same knight e2, but with the bishop already on e3, which is good. But still, I think queen f6 was a move here, because bishop takes f3 just gives up a bishop, which means that black no longer has a compensation for bad pawn structure. So the main compensation for this damaged pawn structure on the queen side is actually a pair of bishops. Since black gives up a bishop, there is no longer compensation, so white has a long-term advantage and very pleasant position. So h5 looks rather like a weakness, not like a power, and well, g5 is weakened. So I would say that here it was better for black just to take on f3 and to play this endgame. Of course, it is annoying, because at some point I just play either d4 or f4, and I will have this typical advantage that is based on a better pawn structure. And I'm not in a rush, so I can maneuver my pieces all around the board, so there is no problem, I mean, for white to exert very annoying pressure on black. But still, I think that queen f3 was the best option, because after castling, after queen g3, there is a problem with the g5. And if h4, for instance, then queen g4 check. If king goes away, then bishop g5, still winning the exchange. And if queen e6, well, this pawn structure is even worse. Also guarantees white's great positional advantage here. That's the point. Okay, let us continue. Let us continue. Just a sec. I will check. Yeah, my phone, because there was an important message. And let's go further. So who's next? Prison Mike. Here we go. There is something in chat. Again, looks like it is a bit frozen, maybe. I don't know. Let's see, maybe there is just a problem with my device. Not sure. Yeah, it was a problem with my device. c4, e5. Yep, Sicilian reversed. g3, and let's try this c6. So it's kind of accelerated carries. Very tricky line. d3, very modest continuation. So d4 is the main line. Fixing the pawn on d5, and then trying to attack it with all possible means. So d3 is also playable, but I think after that black shouldn't be in trouble finding good squares for his pieces. It's kind of feeling. Okay, let's just develop the pieces on natural squares. Should I prevent bishop g5 now? I think yes. Now it's clear, right? So if I play bishop d6 or something, bishop g5 could have been really annoying. Now it is not that dangerous. Moreover, I have something like d4 here. Does it make sense for me to play d4? Oh, it is double-edged. Because at the d4, I grab some space, but at the same time I just open up this bishop g2 and give white squares like c4 and e4 for his knights in the future. On the other hand, if I play bishop d6 or something, then queen b3 might be a bit, just a bit annoying, of course, but still with the attack against my d5. Maybe it makes sense for me to play bishop d6 and if queen b3, then d4. Don't know. Let's try it. Oh, a3, simply a3. All right. Castles. b4. This weakens c3. Square, so that I think d4 now makes sense. With pleasure. I mean, why not? To close the diagonal for the bishop g2. And now how to benefit from this weakened c3 pawn, square. Typical maneuver is kinda a6, knight a7, knight b5, knight c3, but it looks a bit slow in this concrete position, so I will start with just normal development of my pieces. So white will definitely play something like e3 at some point. Should I prevent it somehow? I don't know. I'm not even sure if I have a chance to prevent it. Maybe I can just keep developing my pieces, maybe queen b6, but then e3, definitely a move. Or maybe I shouldn't be afraid of e3, because in this case I just take on e3. Yeah, just take on a3. So let's try this a6. Just preparing everything carefully. So maybe rook to d8, another rook to c8, knight a7, knight b5. This should be good for me. But maybe I had something more convincing. Oh, again, very modest move. I don't know, maybe it was just a misclick. f4 was logical after knight d3. But after f4, I think I have f6. Okay, I have to be faster somehow, but I don't see a normal follow-up, so let's try to force something here. Also was unnecessary, but I'm a bit in a time trouble, so have to be faster. White definitely made a progress. Actually with my help, because I just played f5 myself, which was not forced. But okay. Bishop c1 wasn't the best move. So I think something like g4 should have been played. Despite white loses a pawn or something, but still it was quite good. Okay, now let's just prevent this g4. So 2 extra pawns, if I'm not mistaken. I'm very comfortable position because everything is protected. Can't see really a counterplay, to be honest. Yeah. So position is easily winning. I can just play at some point king c4, then d3, and so on. So I think that I missed the thread somewhere after the opening. Because here, after queen c5, bc5, knight e6, there was interesting just to play g4 immediately. Position is unclear. If I take on g4, bishop takes e4, attacking b7. If I take on f4, then bishop takes b7 is really annoying. There is c6, c7, c8 threat. But I can probably take on c5, but here there is a bishop d5 check, which I thought would be a bit annoying. But now I can see that there is a possibility to play bishop e6. But the point is that after bishop e6, white has 2 good continuations. So the first is just to capture on e6 and then to play f5. So if I play knight f4, it is important not to get into this trap after bishop d4, knight e2. But there is just king f2 probably. But there is also a trick with the d3, right? Yeah. Very interesting one, by the way. Because if e d3, then I just take on d3 with fork. And if, let's say, e3 move, then d2. And white can't stop the pawn. Amazing. So the knight controls e2, and the king can't get closer, and the bishop also can't stop the pawn. Wow. Maybe this endgame was a bit trickier than I expected. So I definitely have some tricks. But okay, instead of bishop e6 and f5, there is also bishop d4. And after bishop d5, bishop c5, well, position should be absolutely drawish. Equal material, opposite colored bishops, so should be draw. Should be just draw. Okay, so g4 deserved attention, that's what I mean. There is also something like, no, d3 doesn't work here. After d3, it's important to start probably with e d3, because if g takes f5, then d2 promotes. But e d3, and g takes f5 works. Because if I play d2, then bishop f3 is simply stopping the pawn. I have nothing here but the losing position. Yeah, that was important to do. And for me, probably f5 was too much. But I just wanted to clarify the things, because it was actually the time travel situation, and I wanted to have something clearer than it was on the board at the moment. Not that simple to proceed. In fact, maybe the best move for me, or the best idea, was to try to maneuver my knight through d6 to c4, because then there will be knight e3. So maybe something like bishop b8 even was better than f5. So even if knight c5, I can probably try this knight e6, and if it takes, then it takes, and then knight c4, knight e3, something like this. Also interesting idea. All right, thanks for the game. Next one is crowning student. Accept. And I'm playing with black. And there will be exchange Tori Lopez, I bet. Let's do it. Now improved. Now improved. Now improved. So c2 is poisoned. So I shouldn't capture it in our previous game when we had this position. And I won't do this today. So how to play this? I'll just castle short without taking on c2 because it looks really bad for black. I remember the position I achieved in our previous game, and it was far from good one. So let's just play on like light squares. Let's try it. So I'll just develop my pieces in normal squares and we will see how it works. Maybe at some point queen c2 will be a threat. But at the moment it is just too much. My goodness. What did I do? I just lost a pawn or something. Or is it okay? So let's see, knight d5, queen takes b7, knight goes to f4. This looks extremely promising for black. I'm not quite sure if it is winning, but it looks, at very least it looks very promising. Let's see, knight d5. Oh. If knight d5, then bishop d5. That should be okay for me. Let's try it. Okay, now white's position is a bit ugly in my opinion. So queen g5 looks quite good. e5 is heading, by the way. And neither f4 nor c4 works for white because it just takes the knight on h4. Fun that Andrey allows this over and over, because I believe it is a good position for black, to be honest. It is definitely the playable line for black, and if white plays e5, he weakens light squares, so it should be just alright for black. My only mistake is that I'm too lazy just to analyze the lines precisely. I mean, I don't do this homework. That is really strange. I agree. Okay, what about a5 now? Queen goes to d4, and then let's say just rook to d8. Should be okay. There was an interesting suggestion from Easy Rider, rook d4, g4. Yeah, could be interesting, but I don't think it is really dangerous because e5 was hanging. And now rook to d8. All right. Yep. There are a lot of threats connected with bishop g2, bishop f3. No, because knight f3. But bishop g2 was definitely a threat. Bishop a2 could be a move here. c5 was a threat, but okay, let's forget about the past. Let's focus on the present. To take that pawn on a2, simply. Why not, after all? Yeah, let's take it. Knight f3, rook d4. Yeah, everything's fine. And rook on d8 is protected, so should be just okay. What to do now? Just to take on d1, I guess, to come back to d5. This looks very good. Let us just do it. The knight is still out of play. e5 is hanging. And f4 weakens a lot. So let's go for it. Let us try to exploit the weakness of light squares. So c4, I can take on c4 if I want, by the way. I can just take on c4 here, because the rook on d1 will be hanging. So to do that or not? Yeah, why not? I'm not sure what are you discussing about b3, but I took on a2, attacking the queen on d4 at the same time with the rook. Yep. That was the point. Okay, so the rook is still hanging. I can put my queen on f3. So I mean, queen c4 is still not possible. Now I have a threat of bishop d5, at very least. Now bishop b3, right? Yeah. Last position. Okay, so this game, well, went more or less smooth in this line. I mean, at least I wasn't that worse after that. So queen b4, well, it looks just normal, but I can't believe that white can leave the king side and light squares there so easily. I mean, look at this. Queen g5 and everything is just awkward in white's position. So as I said before, c4, f4 don't work. Rook e1 is okay. But after that, I just have a lot of threats. So here I have bishop g2 threat. Here I have c5 threat attacking the queen because the bishop is already protected. Well, so maybe c5 is not that dangerous because the queen c5 and my bishop on d5 is hanging, so I can't take on h4 in fact. So maybe c5 wasn't this threat, but bishop g2 is just enough, and bishop a2. Both at the same time. And after g3 and bishop a2, I'm just a pawn up. Queen here takes, bishop d5. Here I expected c4 as well, but after c4 I was planning to play the same queen g4 move. So pinning the c4 pawn, it's not possible to take on d5 with the pawn, and I just attack this pawn, and I intend to play something like b5, for example, next move. This also looks very, very good for black. The knight is simply out of play. On the edge of the board, light squares are too weak. So, yeah, I guess, yeah, this position is good. All right, next cb, accept. e4. e5, knight f3, so there will be Ruy Lopez, right? Right. Okay, bishop a4. And d3, let's try this line. I played bishop c6 against Sebi already, and I didn't achieve a lot, to be honest. Okay. Okay, preventing bishop g5 in advance. So, probably a good strategy. And if I play c3, then just d6. Right. Right. Can I play knight e5 here? Does it give me anything? Knight takes e5, d4. It shouldn't be that dangerous for black. Shouldn't be. Then just d6 with the threat of c5, c4, and so on. Let's try this. Let us try to clarify the things on the queen side. So now I have an a file under control, which is not that bad for me. And d5 square is also something that I want to control. I'm simply developing the pieces and try to exploit some tiny drawbacks in black's position. Now I have the open F file. So I can probably exert some pressure along the F file. There is also a maneuver like queen e1, queen g3. Also very typical. Black will probably try to exchange my light squared bishop with the help of bishop e6 at some point. I have to be ready. For example, after castling, bishop e6 looks very, very natural. Okay. Can I prevent it somehow? So what about knight e5 here? I don't think it is a good idea because after knight e5, bishop d5, knight simply goes to e7, I have nothing. So bishop should go away and then bishop e6. I just help black to improve his position. So instead, probably I have to do something like queen e1, queen g3, right? Or maybe queen e1, knight h4, knight f5, something like this. Can I play knight h4 right away with the threat of knight g6 or knight f5? Let's see. Knight h4, knight takes e4. Let's say I take with the pawn. Queen takes h4. And then I take on f7 several times, and I have queen d5, queen takes c6. Well, it's not that easy to estimate that position, to evaluate, sorry. There is also another idea, so knight h4, knight e4, knight g6. This looks a bit more interesting. And if knight takes c3, b3, rook is under attack, rook goes away, I get to f7. So maybe there is something. Okay, but after knight h4, there is b4, also interesting try. I have no idea. Let's start with the queen e1. I don't like this sort of complications there. After knight h4. So I just want to protect h4 square before occupying it with the knight. And also I'm thinking of probably occupying g3 with the queen at some point. As I said before, it is just a typical maneuver for this pawn structure. I do believe this position should be equal, more or less. But at least I have some pressure. especially after rook went away, so... There should be something. Just still not that simple. So if I play knight e5, knight e5, bishop d5, knight e7. And if bishop f7, king f7, knight e5, there is nothing. King simply goes back. So, what to do instead? Knight to h4? Yeah, knight to h4. Let's just play simple moves. I have only 1 minute and several seconds. Have to be faster. Okay. This I think only helps me, in fact, because f-file is already open. So if knight e5, then bishop d5. And knight on h4 is protected, so I think b4 was a mistake. Black has serious problems now. There is a positional threat of just taking on f6. With the knight, or even with the rook, also deserves attention. I have no idea why black played b4, to be honest. Maybe black miscalculated something. Maybe black saw that knight on h4 is hanging, so that after knight e5 and it's possible to take on f4. Oh, sorry, on h4, but all right. Let's see. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that there is nothing. There should be something, right? Let's just increase the pressure. Somehow, like, I don't know, just knight f5. This move looks very natural. Preparing further attack with queen g3 or queen h4. Don't know. Still looks very solid, but there should be something. Come on. There should be something. Let's take it. Maybe it was just a bluff, I don't know. It's more like a bluff, of course. Oh, the bluff worked out. Okay. All right, so actually, I don't know. I just took on h6 because I didn't see anything better in this concrete situation with the Yeah, with only several seconds for both players, but in fact, after king h6, knight f6, there is nothing wrong with just taking f6. So if like queen h4 check, then king goes to g7. There is nothing. I mean, I can take several times on f6. I can play then rook f1. I can take then on f7, but I'm still a minor piece down. I wanted to take on f7, in fact, here, or maybe to play something like this, rook f6, queen f6, rook f1, but, well, queen g5. And I have nothing, absolutely, so I'm just a minor piece down. I can't occupy h3 or h4 or something. So knight h6 was definitely not a good move. Instead of knight h6, I should have probably just to go back to h4. Or maybe to calculate something like queen h3 or queen h4. I didn't have the time to calculate. That's why I just took an h6. But white should be better, of course, because white has a much better coordination. But as you can see, since black didn't create a lot of weaknesses, it is very hard to break through. So, yeah, maybe here, not knight f5, maybe here something easier, maybe queen g3. Yeah, queen g3 was also an interesting try. But I wasn't sure about this knight h5 move. So just attacking my queen, and if I play queen f3, I had a feeling that black can even try queen takes h4, just giving me a chance to take on f7, but then what? So king goes to h7, so what is next? Not so sure. Maybe there is something, maybe there is a combination, but I just didn't see it during the game, and I don't see it right now. Not clear position. So, strangely enough, it appeared very, very solid. But here I think b4 was unnecessary. So after knight h4, bishop e6 should have been played 100%. 100%, so. Just exchanging my most active piece. Here I wanted to try maybe knight d5, but then bishop d5. e5 and knight e7 looks very solid. Still, I think I'm a bit better here after e4, let's say. Just protecting the pawn because long term, I have a better pawn structure. So this pawn b5, as you can see, is just a bit vulnerable. It can be protected by pawn from adjacent files, so I can attack this pawn gradually, like rook a5, maybe even queen b4. And if black plays c6, well, I just take with pleasure on c6 again. Reactivate my bishop b3, and b5 will be still quite vulnerable, and d6 will be a new target for me, and then knight goes to f5 and so on. And I can still play on the king side here, just putting the queen on g3, then maybe rook f2, another rook to f1. I can also consider this sacrifice on f6 at some point, maybe. So should be good for white, but it's definitely a playable position for black, and it was better in my opinion, for my opponent to play exactly this line than giving me a chance to go to d5. And I'm not sure that rook e8 was in general a good idea. So again, bishop e6 was better, but I would have probably played the same knight d5. So if bishop takes, then I just take with this pawn, and we have the same pattern. But there is a difference because black is in time to play knight g6 before my knight occupied h4. Which I think makes black's position much better than what black could have received after rook e8. Yeah, that was probably the best chance for black. All right. Let's go further. Yeah, Zweihochsechs says that the light square bishop is out of play. Yeah, it's an issue, but it can be activated a bit later, which is really important in the pawn b5. So white can attack b5 pawn several times, like queen b4, rook a5, then the rook to a1. Very annoying pressure. And at some point, according to my experience, black will be forced to play c6, which will definitely activate my bishop. Also, there is a plan at some point to play d4, and after e4, knight d4, the knight gets to c6 and so something like this. And there is also a chance to play c3, then bishop somewhere c2 d1 or something like this. So definitely the bishop is not very good looking. But white has more space, and in my opinion, black's knights are not very active as well. So they look fine, but I can easily restrict them if I want. So yeah, complicated position playable for both sides. All right, let's go further. Azure missed is the next. Accept. So, Rui Lopez, probably yes. Azure missed usually plays bishop b5. And again, exchanged variation. So, Kramnik student, you created a fashion for this line. But Azure missed plays it a bit differently, so he immediately takes on d4 with the knight. Which, in my opinion, is not that great, because it gives me a chance to castle long easily. And that is exactly the main idea behind queen f6 line. So black avoids exchange of queens, or at least, come on. This gives me the knight. I'm sorry. Yeah, so this line avoids exchange of queens, and black just tries to play with a pair of bishops in the middle game stage. But of course, queen e2 is just a simple blunder. Alright, the next is the commutator, or commutator. I don't know, accept. e4. Sicilian defense. It's a decent positional chess, right? We continue the same. Decent positional chess. h5, seriously? What is that? I didn't want to play g4. So this weakens black's position a lot. I don't think it is a good idea. But let's see, maybe black has something in mind. Let's stop this pawn here, first of all. I'll just keep playing the same way like in the main line. So rook e1, bishop f1, and then at some point knight e5. Black will have serious problems with development, because look at this. Pawn on h4 will be a constant weakness, a constant problem, in my opinion. E-file is opened, which is very cool. So what to do now? Just to play f4, or to start with queen d4, creating a threat of f4. What is better? If I play queen d4, of course, bishop g7 is coming, creating a sort of knight f3. So if I want to play f4, I think I have to do this right now. I can also play bishop e3, preparing bishop to d4. Yeah, we'll do exactly bishop e3. That is a good move. Also exerting some pressure on b6. I'm better developed. I guess I already have a better position. Let's undermine the pawn b5. Okay. Oh, maybe I just overestimated my position, to be honest. Yeah, rook h5. I didn't see this resource. That is very bad. Very bad, Andrey. You made a mistake. But okay. Let's try to fix it somehow. If it is possible, of course. So black's main issue is that he plays without proper development. So I can try probably to punish him for it. Let's try the following. This is very risky, actually. So if I take on c4, then knight d2, bishop takes d5. I don't achieve anything concrete. Interesting position. Yeah, a4 was probably too much. Or maybe bishop d4 was a mistake, I don't know. Yeah. But what about just bishop e2? Bishop e2, rook takes d5, bishop f3. Isn't it a good idea? Knight takes b2. Queen goes to c1. Yeah, it should be just alright for white. Let's try it. Strange position indeed. Let's take with the knight. So extra exchange, and I have a much better development. I bet that this guy f8 won't make a single move in this game, but we will see. Maybe I'm wrong. Very strange game. Very, very strange. But okay. Looks like a winning position for white. Let us just convert it. My pawn will become a very dangerous passer very soon. Here it is on a6 already. What? Okay, the first move with this bishop. What about... Well, first of all, queen c6 wins easily. Queen takes, knight takes, then a7, and so on. e7 will be hanging as well. But queen b7 looks even better. So I play queen b7, if queen takes b7, I just take with the pawn, and black can't stop my pawn. So I'll put my queen on b7 instead. And checkmate on e7. Yeah. So, the bishop now can regret that he made a move on g7. It was safer to stay on f8, of course. It was just a joke, not very funny one. So, I don't believe in this line, to be honest. So, black just makes a lot of moves with the h-pawn. Probably it is playable, I don't know, but black definitely has to do something else. Not just simply weakening his position, giving me a chance to occupy the central square. Because I actually do the same like in the main line with the bishop e2, The difference is that bishop is on f8 and the king on e8. It definitely favors white because in the main line the e file becomes open, and I just exert pressure on this file, and well, it's a pleasure to have this file open when the king is on e8. So here probably I made a mistake, so this bishop b3 was not that cool. But maybe it's okay, I don't know. After b5, bishop d4 immediately was much more interesting than what I did. But here is the same rook h5, right? So maybe there is no big difference. Okay, I think a4 is also good. So a4, knight c4, rook h5, but here I found this bishop e2. I was calculating this line, in fact. So takes, knight e2, and now if rook takes d5, the knight goes to e4. And there is an interesting line that I also calculated here, that if black plays this bishop g7, I just take on g7, and if rook takes d1, then knight f6 is a checkmate. That was a cool line in my mind, but of course black is not forced to get into this trap. So after knight e4, I guess there is something, including probably just king d7 move. It looks very crazy, but just enough to save the king from this knight f6 checkmate or something like this. By the way, e5 is also an interesting try. I think e5 is okay, because I can't play knight f6, and there is this threat already to take on d4, but it can be not that dangerous for white. I mean, I can try something like c3, position remains unclear, but after king d7 once again, well, probably everything is fine for black. So yeah, so I saw this interesting checkmate, sacrificing the queen and so on, but I had a feeling that it is too much just to give up a light squared bishop, yeah, to lose the control over light squares in general, and the rook is on d5 looks extremely active. That's why I decided to finally go for this bishop e2, and after bishop e2 I think I'm better. So I just put my bishop on f3, whatever happens here. Yeah. So maybe rook g5 was a bit more testing than rook takes d5 immediately, because after rook d5 I play bishop f3. So the best that black can do here is knight to b2 maybe. But it doesn't really change the situation. So just play queen to c1, knight goes back, take on d5, takes on d5. Okay, so just queen g5, for instance, attacking the bishop on h4. Black is simply not developed, right? I have a much better development and a material advantage, so it should be winning. Okay, anyways, good game. So the next is Cicero 28, except we have never played more. Playing with black. And probably the last game today. I mean, against this guy or maybe anybody else, if he doesn't make his first move quickly. One, two, three, four, five. Sorry. The next one is Klosterfrau, accept. E4. Sicilian, once again. And again, bishop e2. Going to play the same queen d3. to d5. Andrey's German is getting better and better. Come on. That's not true. But okay, I try. Thanks a lot für diese Unterstützung. Knight e7. So I have pair of bishops. I have pair of bishops. It is very important here. And I have this typical plan of c4 and so on. So I think bishop d2 is a move here. Controlling a5 square. Maybe intending to occupy a5 with the knight at some point. c4 was also okay. Oh. My son is not going to sleep today, I think. b5. Well, this definitely gives me a chance to play knight a5 with the idea of knight c6. But I have to be careful about the counterattack after knight c5, so after knight c5, I have a feeling that I'm just losing d5 pawn. So maybe just to undermine the b5 pawn with the help of a4. Why not? This looks very promising. Knight c5, let's take it. Alright, so position becomes open, which is, I think, a portion of good news for my bishops. Now it's interesting. I have no idea what is better, to take on b5 with the queen here, or to play bishop f3 supporting d5 pawn. Because if I take on b5, there will be like queen d5 possibility. Which might be good, might be not that good for me. Very challenging. After bishop f3, of course, black will play c4. And where my queen goes? f5. Then probably black just protects e5 pawn with the bishop. Position is extremely unclear. At the same time, if I take on b5, it might be also not that clear. Alright, let's play bishop to f3. However, I believe that queen b5 was better. Pawn on d5 is in danger. Here I wanted to play bishop g5, in fact. But I have a feeling that there is simply nothing. Well, at the moment, at least I have a sort of taking on a8 and then taking on f6. Queen d7, perfect reaction. I think there is only one way to fight for anything. Bishop e4. Saving the bishops and activating them a bit. Well, at least I have some pressure, right? But black's position is very solid. I don't think I have real chances to squeeze something out of it. Now goes to h5. Well, maybe. Let us just stop its activation. So, I mean, I'm not sure it was the best way for black to play this, but okay. Still looks quite good. Good enough, at least. Alright, now I have some problems with the d5 pawn. Maybe it was better to put the bishop on d2 instead of e3. Yeah, that's for sure. Okay. Let's improve it a bit. What about this? Isn't it a blunder? That is what I wanted to play against knight e5, by the way. At this point, or maybe several moves ago, but with the bishop on d2, I think black still has, yeah, these tactics. Very nice. The bishop goes away, simply. And I have only just like a tiny advantage. Maybe it is not an advantage even, but it looks like a pressure. Not more than a pressure in black's position. Yeah. So I can improve my position. Black can do nothing. Oops. I missed this. Yeah, it's a draw, of course. It's a draw. Yeah, absolutely normal result of this game. So I think I had the pressure at some point, but I missed several chances. So queen f5, bishop g5, queen d7, bishop e4 was the only chance. By the way, there is also a move of like bishop g4, but it leads to the same. So queen f5, bishop f5, and we have the same endgame. So takes, knight h5. That is a strange decision. Maybe I should have played something like bishop d7 immediately, just challenging black's pawns. Maybe that was my best chance. I don't know. Maybe putting the bishop on c6. Yeah, definitely bishop d7 should have been played here. Here I missed my chance. So after knight h5, bishop d7, 100% was necessary to try to achieve something. So at least I improved the position of the bishop. I started attacking black's pawns, and maybe I have something here. So I just played this g3 carelessly, but after h6, well, I think I have nothing. By the way, about knight d5. So after knight d5, I wanted just to take and play bishop e4. That is what I intended, and with the bishop on g5, it works perfectly, I think. So bishop e7, bishop d5, attacking the rook, and the bishop on e7 is hanging. h6, f6 also makes no sense because of bishop d5, just intermediate move, and so on. So black's reaction was not bad. So knight h5, g3, h6, yeah. g3 absolutely justifies black's play. And here I should have played bishop d2 immediately, so that after knight f6 I have the time for something more useful than just playing again the bishop move. And here, yes, after bishop d5 and bishop e7, looks like I have nothing better than just taking on f7. I have some pressure, but yeah, I played not very well in the time trouble, so it was probably much better for me just to play something like rook a1 here. I don't know, just attacking b5 pawn to try to attack this pawn. I was focused only on e5 pawn. However, the only weakness never gives you anything. So the only weakness is very simple to protect. And black actually just did exactly this. All right, not bad. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for this game, for this evening in general. It feels like I was a bit better than during the last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 episodes. So at very least I didn't lose today. So I do hope that next week I will be even better. Not sure if I will wear the same t-shirt, but I also have to refresh and to see some, I don't know, old episodes to see which t-shirts gave me best results. So as you can see, it definitely helps. All right, have a nice weekend. All premium members are welcome as usual to the next episode of Training Tuesday. We will continue with the topic of attacking the king. And all guys who are not premium members, I think it's time to pay for the premium membership and to get the access to this great learning resources. Have a nice week. Have a nice weekend. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.